Hi, today we will look at making an event-sourced model for a shopping cart. For those of you who don't know what event sourcing is, it's when you store data as events instead of current state. If we look at this example here for a shopping cart, we can see that the event source way, you store events for everything that has happened for the shopping cart. So the shopping cart was created, the ID for the shopping cart is stored on the event, then an item was added and the information about the item is on the event, then another item was added, then one item was removed, and then it was checked out. The CRUD way of doing this and the normal way when storing state instead of events, you would just have the state of the shopping cart right now, not what has happened. So here we can see that there's one item of beer, but we can't see that two items was added and one was removed. We just know that there's one item. So that is kind of the main difference of it. If you want to know more about event sourcing, I would recommend looking at Greg Young's talks about event sourcing. There's a bunch of great ones. I will link some of them in the description of the video. So let's jump to some code. There's a lot of examples of shopping carts online, so let's stick with that. So because this shopping cart is going to be event sourced, all of the state changes for the shopping cart, what I mean about state changes is when something changes for the shopping cart. If an item is added, if it's checked out, if it's abandoned, whatever, all the things that can happen to a shopping cart needs to be expressed in events. So if the shopping cart is created, that needs to be expressed as a shopping cart created event. When an item is added, it needs to be expressed in a shopping cart item added event. All the different things that you can do with the shopping cart needs to be expressed as events. And these events will change the state of the shopping cart. And what I mean by the state of the shopping cart, the state is, for example, if the cart is checked out or not, how many items there is in the shopping cart. And the reason for the state is so you can enforce rules. So you could probably not add an item to an already checked out shopping cart. And to validate that, you need to, like here, have a boolean to check if the cart is already checked out. But we can look at from start to finish of all the state changes in the shopping cart and how to create a shopping cart. So here we have the model, and there's two ways of creating the shopping cart. The first one here is when you create the shopping cart. So maybe a user has added something to the shopping cart, or as a user registers on a website, a shopping cart is created. I don't know when you would create the shopping cart, but when you new up your shopping cart, we will create a shopping cart created event here. And if you look at the event, it inherits from this record called event store event. Right now it's just empty. We might want to add some base properties like a date or something to this in the future, but just to keep it simple, we just have it as an empty record, so we can have a type in our shopping cart for all different types of events. And yeah, here if you look at it, we have just the ID of the shopping cart that we set when the shopping cart is created. And right now it's just a quid, and we convert it to a string. The reason for it being a string is that in most event stores I've worked with, it's easier to just have a string as an ID than a quid, because different types of models have different types of IDs, and yeah, it's easier to just have it as a string. That way you can have it as a GUID behind the scenes and then just convert it to a string. But yeah, so we'll create a new shopping cart created event, and we'll add the event here, call the method add event, and what that does is it applies the event, and applying the event is just a simple switch where it checks the type of the event and does something with the shopping cart. So when the shopping cart created event is applied, it will take the ID from the created event and set the ID of the shopping cart. That way you can check the ID of the shopping cart. So that's one way of creating the shopping cart. The other way is when you read your shopping cart from storage. Whatever storage you use, if that's SQL event store, or if you use Event Store DB or some other type of event store, you would load those events and you would get them in a list, and then you would send it into your model. And in this case here, we will get all the events that are stored in the database, and we would apply them. And it's just a loop here where we apply the events, which is calling the switch. So it would just change the state of the shopping cart when each of the events is looped through. And we add it to all events, so you can see what events the shopping cart has. And if you want to add an item, we do the exact same thing. We create a shopping cart item added event, and we add that event. Same for remove. And here for remove we have a check. We check that the item is on the cart, that it exists on the cart, because you can't remove something that doesn't exist on the cart. If you have added something in your cart on Amazon, a phone or something, you can't remove it if you haven't added it. So that's why we throw an exception here, because this shouldn't be possible, and we want to guard ourselves from that happening. This is something that never should happen though. And we add a shopping cart item removed event and add it. So every time we want to do something with the shopping cart, we have to create an event, and we need to add the event. And we need to add it to the switch here to say how we want to modify the state. If we want to modify the state, you might want to add an event that doesn't change the state. You might want to just add it to say that something has happened, and then listen to that thing has happened somewhere else and do something. But we will cover that in the future in another video. So yeah, uncommitted events. When adding an event, when doing something with the shopping cart, we will add the event uncommitted events. The reason for that is we need to keep track of which events we have saved in our database and which we have not. So when we would save the shopping cart, when we've checked it out, or we're added an item, we want to save it to the database, and we don't want to store all the events that are already in the database. So that's why we have another list for the uncommitted events. And when we have stored it in the database, we will call this function commit events. Yeah. If we look, I have some tests here so we can show how this actually works. So when creating a shopping cart, just a new shopping cart, we will see that all events has one event, and it's a shopping cart created event, and the ID should be the same as the ID of the shopping cart, because that's how we know which shopping cart we should where we would save the shopping cart and how we would load the shopping cart. We also check that event is produced so you know that when we create a shopping cart created event is added. If we check something else, like when checking out a shopping cart, here we're creating a new shopping cart, we're adding an item, and we're checking out the shopping cart. So we check that checked out on the shopping cart should be true, because look at the switch. When checked out, and when a shopping cart checked out event appears, we change the checked out boolean to true. So that should be true. And we check that a shopping cart checked out event is stored on the shopping cart. I'm using Fluent Assertion here with to check all of these things. It's really nice and simple to use. Yeah, I think that is it. In the next video we will look at improving this model, making a base model to use for event source models, something that we can reuse, so we don't have to set all of these things up every time. But this was just a really simple example, so you can see how it's done. The code is on in the description of the video, so just check it out. And yeah, hope you liked this video.